Your proxy passes the address check. Green light, a real-looking residential or mobile address, the right country. So you log in, confident that you are safely behind it. And meanwhile, 3 or 4 side channels that the address check never even looks at may have just quietly announced your real location anyway. This is the trap with proxies. The obvious test passes, and the account still gets flagged, and you spend a week blaming the platform when the problem was a leak sitting right next to a proxy that was working perfectly. These are the leaks that get people caught, and how a proper setup closes each one. Why a passing address check is not the whole story. The address lookup only tells you what your outgoing connection looks like on that one channel. It says nothing about the half-dozen other ways a browser can reveal where you really are. A browser is a complicated piece of software with many separate paths to the network, and a proxy configured the simple way often only covers the main one. The rest, the peer connection, the name lookups, the clock, the location services, can each take their own route and each tell their own truth. So a green address check is necessary but nowhere near sufficient. It is the first test, not the last. The WebRTC leak. The most infamous one lives in the browser's real-time communication feature, the part built for voice and video calls. To connect two people directly, that feature needs to discover the device's real addresses, and it can do so in a way that bypasses the proxy entirely. So a page can quietly ask the browser for those addresses and receive your true one, the real address sitting behind the proxy, even while every normal request goes out cleanly through it. It is the classic proxy leak. It has been around for years, and a shocking number of setups still fall to it because the person never tested for it. The DNS leak. Every time you visit a site, your browser first has to translate the name into an address, and that lookup goes to a resolver. If that resolver is your own internet provider's, instead of one reached through the proxy, then your provider sees every site you visit and, just as bad, the sites can infer your real provider and rough location from which resolver did the asking. The proxy carried your traffic, but the lookups walked out the front door. A name lookup leaking to your real provider is a quieter tell than the peer connection one, but it is just as revealing over time. The time zone leak. This one needs no clever network trick at all. The browser will happily tell any page what time zone your computer is set to, straight from your operating system. If your machine is set to your real local time while your proxy exits on another continent, the page sees an address in one place and the clock in another. And those two facts do not agree. A real person's clock matches their location almost always. An account whose clock and address point to different parts of the world every session is stacking up exactly the contradiction detection systems are built to notice. The language and locale leak, close cousin to the clock. Your browser announces which languages you accept and in what order, and your system carries a locale, a region setting, if those say one country while your address says another. That is another quiet mismatch. Someone in one country browsing with a completely foreign language preference and a foreign region setting, consistently over weeks, is not impossible, but it is unusual enough to add to the risk score. The fix is to make the locale match the story the address is telling, so every layer agrees on who this person is supposed to be. The IPv6 leak. There are two generations of internet addresses in use, the older widespread one and the newer one. Many proxies only handle the old kind. So if your machine and network also have the newer kind enabled, your browser may reach some destinations over that newer address directly, skipping the proxy and exposing your real address on it. It is a sneaky leak because everything looks fine on the old address that the proxy covers, while the newer one quietly slips past. A complete setup either routes both through the proxy or disables the uncovered one, so there is no side door left open. The geolocation angle. Browsers also have an actual location feature, the one that asks permission to know where you are, even without granting it. The surrounding signals, nearby wireless networks, the address itself, feed a picture of location that the platform can cross-check against your proxy. If you do grant location to an account, and it reports your real city while the address claims another, that is a direct contradiction from your own browser. Treat the location permission as something to keep consistent with the rest of the identity, not something to click through without thinking on a sensitive account. The connect moment flash. There is also the leak of timing. If a browser profile touches the network even once before the proxy is fully bound, in that instant it can reveal your real address and pick up signals tied to you. That first unguarded moment can undo everything that follows. This is why the order of setup matters so much. The proxy has to be in place before the profile ever connects, not applied afterward. A single flash of the real address at the start can link a profile that behaves perfectly ever after.
Verbeeiming katin by the Ninus Papibam, Famada Tabapamskin Pandomin. The danger is that each one is a contradiction with the proxy story and contradiction stack. The address says one country, the clock says another. The name lookups point to your real provider. The peer connection quietly hands over your true address. Anyone might be shrugged off.
Together they paint a clear picture, a connection pretending to be somewhere it is not. Detection thrives on exactly this kind of internal disagreement, because a real user almost never produces it, and a hastily proxied setup produces it constantly, testing before any account touches it. The habit that prevents all of this is simple and takes 2 minutes. Before an account ever uses a proxy, open a leak test page inside that exact profile over that exact proxy and read it. It will show you the address the world sees, whether the peer connection reveals a second one, which resolver handled your lookups, and what your clock and locale report. If anything on that page points back to your real location or provider, you have a leak to close before, not after. You log in. Testing after the account is already linked is just documenting the damage. Joining is a peer connection leak. A real antidetect browser handles the peer connection leak per profile, either masking the addresses it would reveal so they match the proxy, or disabling that discovery entirely for that profile. This is one of the clearest reasons to use a proper tool rather than a plain browser with the proxy bolted on. A normal browser will happily leak through that feature no matter how carefully you set the proxy, because closing it cleanly needs control the plain browser does not give you. The antidetect profile closes the door the ordinary setup leaves open, closing the name lookup and clock leaks. The name lookups need to travel through the proxy, so the resolver the world sees is the proxies and not your providers. A good setup routes them that way by default. The clock and locale are simpler. Set the profile's time zone and language to match the proxy's location, so the account's clock agrees with its address, and the newer address generation, if the proxy does not cover it, gets routed through or switched off so it cannot slip past. None of these fixes is exotic. They are just steps people skip because the address check already looked green. They are content and plugin leak. Leaks do not only come from the network stack. Browser extensions can leak too, and people forget them entirely. An extension that fetches data on its own can do so outside the proxy's path, quietly reaching the internet from your real address while your main traffic stays clean. Some extensions phone home to their own servers with identifying details attached. Others behave identically across every profile you install them in, becoming a shared trait that links the profiles together. Keep each profile lean, add only what an account genuinely needs, and understand that every extra tool is one more thing that can leak around the very proxy you set up so carefully. Why free and shady proxies leak the most? The proxies most likely to leak are the cheap and free ones, and it is not a coincidence. A free proxy has no incentive to route your name lookups properly, to cover the newer addresses, or to close the peer connection path, and quite a few are run specifically to harvest the traffic and data of the people who use them. You get what you pay for in the most literal way. The free proxy leaks by design or by neglect, and you are the product. A serious dedicated proxy from a real provider closes these paths because that is the service you are paying for. Cutting corners on the proxy is cutting corners on the leaks. The leak that comes back after an update, a setup that tested clean can start leaking again later, and the usual culprit is an update. A browser update can re-enable a feature you had disabled, reset a setting, or introduce a new network path that your old configuration never accounted for. The peer connection feature is notorious for coming back to life after an update quietly undid your fix. This is why the leak test is not a one-time ritual, it is a habit. Rain test your profiles periodically, and especially after any update to the browser or the tool, because the door you closed last month may have been quietly propped back open. The browser and proxy are one unit, and the honest limit, the through line is that the browser and the proxy are not two separate purchases you can configure independently. They are one identity, and the leaks live in the seams between them. That is why they have to be set up together, tested together, and verified as a pair before an account trusts them. And the honest limit still applies. Closing every leak removes the contradictions. It does not license careless behavior. A perfectly leak-free connection under an account that acts like a bot still gets caught. The leaks are one layer. Close them, then let the account behave like a real person on top. Verfindet Krusung Formentheitsdivenia. Because a proxy that passes the address check and fails a leak test is worse than useless. It is confidence with a hole in it. MultiAccountOps.com has the full written leak checklist, the exact tests I run, and honest reviews of the tools that actually close these gaps. No affiliate guesswork. If you want your proxy to hold up past the address bar, that is the place to start. And subscribe for more honest, tested multi-account ops. Next time, the account isolation checklist. One profile, one proxy, one identity, and every single thing that has to stay separate, so no two of your accounts ever share a